Ana Julaton, born and raised out of San Francisco, all around Bay Area, love it, live here, wouldn't dare to go anywhere else. I think this is the best place in the world. I started martial arts when I was 10, and my dad actually got me into it. I didn't like martial arts, but he would play Bruce Lee films all the time. And ever since then, I just got stuck with it. I started out in Golden State, and I learned Taekwondo there. I got my black belt there. We did a lot of tournaments, a lot of competitions, went to the nationals and things like that. Then by the time I was 18, I started doing bout. Bout means white tiger. It's a form of Kempo. But their main base is self-defense, and when I was about 18, 19, I wanted to learn a little bit more about self-defense as opposed to, competitive martial arts. Right. So I got into that, and in Bakfu, they wanted to start incorporating boxing. Before, they used to do full contact where you would throw kicks, elbows, knees, and things like that, but what they ended up finding was, number one, a lot of people got injured, and number two, after all these years of learning all this technique, all the technique went out the door. And when they started researching all the other competitive martial arts, they saw that boxing was a good parallel to martial arts, where you have to have good discipline, endurance, heart, things like that, good technique. And since I was a teacher by that time, I started learning some of the basics, and it kind of just took off from there. And here I am. I was getting ready for that world title fight. Unfortunately, it got postponed. Right. Still trying to kind of stay sharp. I worked over at Walcard, and I got to be one of Freddie Roach's fighters. Got to work with Manny Pacquiao in a lot of his camps. And now that I'm back here up in the Bay Area, I'm over here with Kennel Boxing. I don't know if you've gotten to meet Nonito Donaire Sr. Yeah. He's one of the top trainers in the world. He was actually he came from the Philippines and started working with me for the past couple of weeks just to get me ready for this fight. Fortunately, I just missed him. He's off in the Philippines right now, and I wish him the best of luck, and I thank him a lot for coming out here and working on my technique. So that's me.
So what was it like training with Freddie Roach? I mean, that must have been something, right? A lot of people call him the genius. What would you say separates him from other trainers? Is there technique that he uses, or kind of training messages that he sends you, or something like that?
It's funny because anyone who gets to work with Freddie, like for me, I think I was starstruck. For foremost, and for me it was a little hard for me to kind of check the technique, kind of see how he works in mitts and things like that, because I was always just mesmerized by it. I was like, this is the actual Freddie Roach. Right. But by the time I started to settle in and getting comfortable with him, his style is more in range or close range, where you do a lot of slipping and weaving, a little bit more like Eddie Futch's fighter, Frazier, more like Frazier style. So a lot of in-close fighting, a lot of body shots, hook over the top and things like that. But overall, he's a great technician. He's very compassionate, and he looks out for his fighters.
What do you think the state of women's boxing is right now? Do you think it will ever be as popular as men's boxing?
I like to, think positive. For the past, you can even say couple of decades already, women's fighting, women's boxing has always been like a novelty act. Whenever you'd have like Layla Ali or Lucia Riker in there, everyone's like, ooh, it's a girl fight, as opposed to, looking past that and trying to see him more like an athlete, more like fighters. There's always like that
stigma, right?
Yeah. And I feel like it's still kind of like that right now. However, we have people like Gina Carano, and Cyborg, they're having this big fight that's coming up on the 15th, and they're trying to build up this big platform for a lot of female fighters. And, I think it's great. At the same time, I don't think I think, it has been done before, and I think, eventually, I'd like to see women's boxing or women's fighting in general go up on the same level as male fighting. But I think it's just always going to be a constant battle. It's kind of like, women's basketball. Unless we treat it like women's tennis.
Yeah. Do you ever sparring the guys out here?
Oh, yeah. For this fight that was supposed to come up, Glenn Donaire was helping me a lot. I mean, in terms of just being able to learn the style, just being able to see how it's done, and just being in there with someone very experienced. Glenn's a veteran. So, going in there with the guys is definitely different from the girls,
Right. Do you have like a favorite boxer of all time?
Favorite boxer? And, you know, it varies. Obviously, Manny Pacquiao, you know, he's always out there representing the Filipinos all over the world. I think what's great about him, too, is not only does he do well for the sport, but he also does well for the country.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I mean, nowadays you have all these different champions who have belts and have all these records and things like that, but they usually don't do anything with it. You know what I mean? They'll say, hey, you know, I'm the champion, and that's pretty much it. They don't give back.
Right.
So Manny Pacquiao, definitely. But I've been watching a lot of tape, doing a lot of boxing watches. Joe Louis, man, that guy is awesome. You know, just being able to just watch some old school boxing and just kind of seeing how the sport is developing, you know, and just being able to see how he understood it and how calm he is and how he's able to measure and just understand boxing. I'd say, yeah, you know, Joe Louis is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Okay. I see your upcoming fights against Melissa Hernandez, who I guess happens to have the same nickname as you. I guess she changed hers, but I think are you going to be fighting at 130 for this fight?
Yeah, it's a 130 title, but it was for a catch weight of 128.
Okay.
I mean, what's nice is that they took in consideration that I'm coming in from a smaller weight class. I fight at 122 Super Bantamweight, and they want to make it a little more even. So yeah, 130 title bout, but you know, catch weight of 128.
What kind of things do you have to adjust when you're fighting against a heavier fighter? Because I know she's the first fighter you ever fought who weighs over 123 pounds. I mean, they always say, like, I know the mantra always is a good big man always beats a good small man. I mean, what do you have to prepare for when you're fighting someone who's heavier than you?
Well, someone who's heavier, I mean, usually you want to think of someone who's not as fast. You know, they kind of send their punches a little bit more. For seniors' particular style is all about speed, good technique, good stancing, being able to move in and out, and I think that handles into more of my advantage. You know, just being able to use my length, my distance, and just being able to use my, you know, Filipino speed.
Speed and quickness, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I see like a lot of boxing analysis, women's boxing analysis say you're an underdog for this fight. How do you handle that? When people say you're an underdog, do you listen to any of that, or you just kind of ignore it?
You gotta ignore it. You know, I mean, you know, for me, I think. It was funny because I was talking to another reporter about this, and he's a big boxing fan. He even admitted that, you know, in boxing there's a counter to everything. You know, kind of like in martial arts. You know, there's an answer for everything. So there's that famous saying, "Styles make fights."
Yeah.
And you know, it all depends on how you play the game. So for me, you know, people are always going to say what they want to say. Opinions are opinions, but what's going to count is mine.
Right.
So it's all about me in this fight.
Okay. Were you